When I was in high school, running was everything to me. I lived for cross-country and track. It wasn't just a sport, it was a way to escape the suffocating silence of a small town where every day blurred into the last. We had a tight-knit team and 3 coaches: the sprint coach, the head coach, and my mentor, the distance running coach, who I'll call Coach M. He was tall and lean, with tired eyes and a constant stubble that made him look like someone who'd seen too much. His voice, low and steady, instilled confidence, and his workouts were tough but fair. I was one of his runners, one of those he pushed up hills and along forest trails until my legs shook. He said he saw potential in me, and I believed him. We were close, or so I thought. Everything changed one cold fall day. I showed up to practice, lacing up my sneakers under a gloomy sky, and noticed Coach M wasn't there. Leaves rustled underfoot, the wind howled through bare branches, and I stood on the old-school stadium field, scanning for his familiar figure. Instead, the head coach, a stocky man with a stern face and a habit of yelling instead of explaining, met us. He grumbled that he'd be running practice today and told us to warm up. No one said a word about where Coach M had gone. I figured he was sick, maybe a cold, the flu, something normal. Our team was used to his strict schedule, and his absence felt like a crack in the routine. But I brushed off the unease. He'll be back tomorrow, I told myself, tightening my laces. But tomorrow came and he didn't show. A week passed, silence. We ran laps under low clouds, and I started noticing the other guys exchanging looks, like they knew something I didn't. Finally, on Friday after practice, the head coach gathered us in a circle on the wet grass. His voice was low, almost menacing. Coach M isn't coming back. He got an offer to coach at a D1 university. He's gone. That's it. I froze. A D1 university was every athlete's dream, a league where future champions are made. But why didn't he tell us? Why didn't he say goodbye? We were a team, a family. I glanced at the guys. Some shrugged, others looked down. It hurt. Not just sadness but betrayal. I pictured him packing up his cramped apartment, getting in his car, and driving off to a new city without a backward glance. The image burned inside me. But I swallowed the hurt. It's his shot, I repeated to myself, trudging home in the drizzle as raindrops slid down my face, mixing with something salty. A few days later, my phone buzzed late at night. A message from Coach M. My fingers trembled as I opened it. Sorry I didn't say goodbye. It all happened so fast. You were one of the first kids I ever coached, and I'm proud of you. I'll mention you at the university press conference. You deserve it. Thanks for everything. I reread those lines, sitting in my room under the dim glow of a lamp. The sting of betrayal softened into warmth. He thought of me. He wanted me to know how much I'd meant to him. A press conference? That sounded big. I started checking the university's website, every day, every spare moment, but there was nothing. No word of a new coach, no announcements. Just game schedules and student life updates. Anxiety crept in, a shadow slinking across the wall in the dark. Something wasn't right. At the next practice, the head coach called us together again. His face was stone, his eyes darting. Listen up, he said, dropping his voice to a whisper. No contact with Coach M. If he texts or calls, tell me right away. That's an order. But why? I blurted out. He just pressed his lips together and waved me off, ending the discussion. We stood there in silence as the wind swept leaves across the field, a chill sinking into my bones. I didn't get it, but instinct told me to obey. That night, I blocked Coach M's number, my fingers shaking as I hit block. It felt like betrayal, but whose? I went to bed, but sleep wouldn't come. The wind howled outside, and I kept imagining someone standing under my window, staring up. Days dragged on, and the weirdness piled up. My mom told me someone had called her old job, asking for her number. She had to switch her SIM card because the calls wouldn't stop. Persistent, late night, from an unknown number. One evening, she burst into my room, pale, clutching her phone. It was your Coach M. He begged me to make you talk to him. Said he wants to take you and some other team kids to Africa. Africa. And that he's making $2 million a year. What's this nonsense? I stared at her, speechless. Africa? $2 million? It sounded insane. I mumbled that the head coach had banned us from talking to him, and we blocked his number on her phone too. But my head was spinning. What was he planning? Why me? I lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling, the rain pounding the roof like someone knocking, demanding to be let in. Things got darker that weekend at a cross-country meet. The morning was cold, fog blanketed the ground, and I spotted police cars by the starting line. Cops at a high school race? That was unheard of. The coaches whispered, their faces tense, and the head coach kept glancing around like he expected something awful. We ran the course in oppressive silence, just the thud of sneakers and ragged breaths. After the race, I grabbed food with a friend who'd graduated a year earlier and used to run with us. We sat in a diner, and she spilled the truth in a hushed voice as rain streaked the window outside, tracing blurry lines. "Coach M lost it," she said, staring into the distance. "He's got a serious mental illness. Stopped taking his meds, convinced himself he landed a D1 coaching job, showed up there and made a scene. Cops had to kick him out. Then he started calling you guys. The head coach thinks he's dangerous." My blood ran cold. Dangerous? My coach M, who taught me how to breathe on long runs, who slapped my shoulder after every win. It didn't add up. But she went on. "They put security at the meet because they don't know what he'll do. He's been harassing half the team." That's when I understood why the head coach was so strict. But it was just the start of the nightmare. Word spread through the team like wildfire. One of the girls, without thinking, texted Coach M, asking if it was true he was sick. It was like tossing a match into gasoline. He fired back, furious, accusing us of spreading lies and ruining his name. Then came the last message she showed us, her hands shaking as she forwarded the screenshot. "I'll show up at your practice. You'll all regret it." The school went into lockdown. They locked us in classrooms while cops searched the area. I sat by the window, staring at the empty field, picturing him stepping out of the fog with a gun. We ran at 5 a.m. in the dark on trails he knew better than any of us. He could ambush us anywhere, around any bend and any shadow. The next few months were drenched in fear. Every morning I looked over my shoulder. Every rustle in the bushes made my heart race. I stopped running alone even in daylight, and every time I tied my shoes, my fingers went numb with tension. But he never showed. Slowly we started to forget, pushing him out of our minds like a bad dream fading at dawn. Years passed. I went to college, kept running, but Coach M's shadow lingered. He popped up again and again, a ghost I couldn't shake. Once I spotted him in the stands at a college meet, standing far off in an old jacket, watching me until security escorted him out. He tried friending me on social media, making new accounts whenever I blocked the old ones. Every couple of years something reminded me of him, a random message, a rumor he was nearby. I heard he'd gotten a job coaching middle school in another state, and each time I learned that, a chill ran through me. What if he snapped again? What if he found me? The worst came later, years down the line, from that same friend I'd met at the diner. We ran into each other at a coffee shop, and she, fidgeting with a napkin, told me it wasn't his first breakdown. Long before me he'd lost it, ditched his meds, threatened people, even a student, and the school still hired him back. They knew. And said nothing. That realization haunts me. How could they gamble with us like that? Why didn't anyone stop it sooner? I looked into her regret-filled eyes and felt something collapse inside. Everything I'd thought was safe back then, the team, the practices, even running, was a lie. 10 years went by. I'd quit competitive running, got a job, moved to a new city. Life settled, but the fear stayed, small, buried deep, like a splinter I couldn't pull out. I thought he was gone for good until that fall. One day I decided to start running again, not for races but for myself. It was like reconnecting with an old friend I'd lost touch with. Every morning I hit a trail by the river near my new place. It was peaceful, just the rustle of leaves and the splash of water. Running became my escape again, a way to quiet the noise in my head. But one morning, everything shifted. I was jogging in the pre-dawn haze when I noticed tracks on the ground, fresh, deep, like someone had just walked through. They were boot prints too big for a random passerby. I stopped, my breath catching. It was dead quiet, no birds, nothing. I glanced around, but no one was there. My heart pounded, and I ran faster than usual, racing home, gasping not from exertion but from fear. The next day the tracks were back, closer to my path, right by the trail. I started spotting little things, broken branches, cigarette butts that hadn't been there before. Someone was watching me. I told myself it was paranoia, echoes of the past, but I couldn't shake the feeling of eyes on me. One night I woke to a sound, a faint tap on the window. I peeked out, seeing only darkness and my own scared reflection. In the morning a scrap of paper sat on my porch, scrawled with jagged letters. "You thought I'd forget?" I called the cops. They checked the yard, took the note, but said they couldn't do much without proof. Maybe just kids messing around, an officer shrugged. But I knew. It was him. Coach M. He'd found me. I stopped morning runs, locked every door, but the fear wouldn't leave. He was out there and I could feel him, a shadow that moved behind me but vanished when I turned. It was late fall. I'd gone back to my hometown for the weekend to see my parents. The evening was quiet, rain drumming on the roof, and I sat in the living room flipping through old school photos. Memories flooded back, team laughter, the smell of wet grass, Coach M's voice barking orders. Then the doorbell rang. Mom peeked out the window and frowned. Some guy. I don't recognize him. I walked to the door, my heart already racing. Through the glass I saw a figure, tall, hunched, in an old raincoat. When he turned, the porch light hit his face. It was Coach M. His eyes were hollow, his hair a tangled mess, and he clutched something wrapped in a rag. 10 years hadn't erased his features, just added wrinkles and madness to his stare. Open the door, he rasped. We need to talk. I froze. Mom whispered to call the police, but I didn't get the chance. He slammed his fist against the door, rattling the glass. You thought I'd forget? You thought I'd let it go? I stumbled back, dialing 911 as he shouted incoherently about Africa, the team, how we'd betrayed him. His voice had something inhuman in it, like he'd lost himself long ago. The rag fell, revealing an old hunting knife, its rusty blade glinting in the light. I knew then, he wasn't here to talk. The cops arrived 10 minutes later, but he'd already melted into the darkness, leaving the knife on the porch like a warning. They tracked him down a week later, hiding in the woods nearby, in a makeshift shelter surrounded by newspaper clippings about our old team. Among his stuff was a journal, packed with notes about me, where I lived, where I worked, the routes I ran. He'd been watching me all these years, waiting. A cop showed me a photo. Coach M, overgrown and gaunt, grinning at the camera in a way that made my blood run cold. They locked him up, but it's not over. I know now, he'll never be gone. Even if he's behind bars, even if he disappears, the shadow of his madness will haunt me forever. Every morning, stepping out for a run, I look back. Every night, drifting off, I hear his voice. You thought I'd forget? And I know, he'll come back someday. Maybe not him, but someone he's infected with his insanity. Or maybe it's just the fear I carry, a scar that won't fade. I quit running. My sneakers gather dust in the closet, and the trails I loved feel like traps. But sometimes in the dead of night, I hear footsteps outside. And every time I wonder, is it him? Or is it me, the version of myself he wanted to shape?